Are you a tired mama? But I'm not talking about the kind of tired that might be fixed with a nap, getting your nails done, or a bubble bath. In today's episode of the Possibility Mom Live, I'm talking about what it looks like to get spiritual rest and how every mom needs to do this and some practical suggestions for how to get it, whether you have one child at home or many. Welcome to the Possibility Mom Live. If you have been following me for a while, you know I have an incredible spiritual director, Father Damien. What? I will forever be grateful for you putting up with all of my antics. I started meeting with Father Damien in Toronto probably 6 or 7 years ago. It's been a very long time. And then, of course, with the pandemic, he was like, we can continue to meet via Zoom. And so we just have kept up the habit even in my move to Florida. And I was telling him that I am a tired mama. At time of recording, my sweet little ninth baby is almost 10 weeks old, and I'm beginning to suspect he has an intolerance to cow dairy. And so I have decided for his benefit and for mine to cut dairy out of my diet because I've just spent a lot of my day uh, soothing his poor little upset stomach. And so I was telling Father Damien, like, I am just so exhausted. Like, I'm not sleeping well. I'm trying to soothe this baby who seems to only be soothed by me. I've tried this, I've tried that. I'm a very strategic person when it comes to human things. So where human formation is concerned, I got all kinds of hacks, habits. And so I'm kind of like literally lamenting, complaining about how I've tried all these things, how I've tried this kind of carrier, this kind of essential oil, how I've, looked into chiropractor for I've looked into all the things. And I kind of was just like saying this long list of all the reasons why I'm tired. And he was so patient. He's very patient with me. And he was like, Lisa, I don't think that this is the kind of rest you really like are looking for or really need. Like, yeah, you probably need a nap, you probably need a vacation, but I think the real kind of rest you need is spiritual rest. And I was like, yes. And it's very important that we recognize this, that in everything we do, and of course I'm speaking to Catholic, I know there are a lot of Catholics who listen to this podcast and follow me here on my channels, but this is applicable to all. There is, of course, a human element to everything we do, like a physical element. So sometimes you are legit just tired and you just need to take a nap. Sometimes there is a mental component to what is going on. And so perhaps there is something about the way you are thinking that you could adjust. I am a, trained mindset coach. And so this is what I do all day, every day for my clients. I get them to examine and interrogate their thoughts. But then, of course, there is a spiritual component to so many things that we do in our lives. And so today I want to unpack some of the things that he shared with me on how to get more spiritual rest. And I think this is the kind of rest, at least speaking from personal experience as a mom of 9, this is where I tend to get a little bit, I can succumb to despair a little bit because I can look at my life and be like, how can I make any more time for anything else? But that is why I really wanted to create this podcast. If you struggle with finding spiritual rest, if you don't even know what this feels like, if you are feeling like, well, thanks, Lisa, there's absolutely no way I can adjust my life to make time for more of anything. I really hope that this is a short and sweet podcast that you can put in your earbuds anytime you are feeling so tired, but are finding like nothing is helping. No amount of napping, no number of cups of coffee, no runs around the blocks or getting your nails done. I want you to be able to put this podcast in your earbuds for a little bit of hope and for some practical elements. Okay, so first thing I want to do is define, what do I mean by spiritual rest? And this is what my spiritual director and I yesterday spent so much time unpacking, that of course, the daily tasks of motherhood are sanctifying. So, of course, when you're doing the dishes, when you are changing diapers, you've heard me talk, if you follow me closely on Instagram at Lisa Canning, you've heard me talk about the bells, how in motherhood, we have natural bells, quote unquote, the way that monastics who have bells to tell them when to go brush their teeth, when to come down for dinner, when to go for, morning prayer and what have you, they have a physical bell that rings. We as moms have the bells of crying children, the bells of a spilled box of pasta. We have the bells of, somebody needing a cup of water while you're breastfeeding the baby, all that kind of stuff. We have natural bells. These are, of course, going to be activities that are going to make us more holy and prepare us for our ultimate destination, which is on the other side of heaven. Uh, on the other side in heaven. But sometimes you just need straight up rest, meaning you need that quiet and that consolation that comes from silence, that comes from sitting in front of the Blessed Sacrament, that comes from being able to converse with God the same way that you might have a cup of coffee with a girlfriend or go on a date with your spouse in a quiet environment. Sometimes you need straight up rest. And here's the thing that I really want to share, because as my spiritual director was unpacking this with me and he was saying, I think you just need straight up rest. And I was getting a little bit like, I don't know how I could do that. Like, how do I fit that in? Blah, 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 blah. I want to share with you that the spiritual walk is not black and white, and that there are things that might work for me that may not work for you. I was asking him because I like very clear answers. The choleric in me loves just very, give me a clear answer, give me a black and white answer. And he was like, well, unfortunately, I can't do that here. There are some mothers who might be able to get this spiritual rest while not leaving their house. This is what he said. There are some mothers who perhaps won't need the same amount of extended time. And again, we all have to discern for ourselves what is working for us, what is our just what's going to work for us in our unique circumstances. So in the things I'm going to share in this podcast, I want you to sort of discern what fits, what is a version of it for yourself. All right, here we go. So, if you would like to get more spiritual rest, the kind that is truly just like in like time with the Lord, time to be able to hear his voice, the same way that you might take a physical nap. Like this is like, what is the equivalent of a physical nap in your prayer life, in your relationship with our Lord? Here are some strategies for you to do that. All right. Number one, schedule a half day of recollection monthly. So this is something that people who are involved with Opus Dei, anybody Opus Dei in the house, let me know in the comments where if you're watching this on YouTube. Opus Dei, for their communities, they have something called a monthly recollection, where there might be mass, there might be adoration, and then there's some kind of a talk. So if there is a Opus Dei community that you are able to, truthfully, I'm not sure if guests are allowed. I apologies, I don't know, but perhaps you can investigate if that is there's something like that in your area that you can attend. Again, with the pandemic, many communities are doing this on Zoom. Of course, the absence of mass is there with Zoom, but to be able to have a few hours once a month. This was the first thing my spiritual director recommended to me. Where can you get a few hours once a month. And perhaps if there's no Opus Dei style recollection, could you make yourself one? So simply find Saturday morning mass, for example. Maybe bring a great book that you can reflect on, something like Interior Freedom by Jacques Philippe or Trustful Surrender to the Will of God, and just sit in front of the Blessed Sacrament, find an adoration chapel after, and just sit, you know, and just be at peace, and then be able to come back and be restored and give to your family with the oxygen mask that is so necessary. And it was so interesting because it was like he could hear my thoughts. He was like, I know, Lisa, you might be thinking, like, what's going to happen when you get home? Is the house going to be torn upside down? Like, you worried about your husband? Like, you might have these racing thoughts, but this is where my mindset training comes as a trained mindset coach. You can turn those thoughts around. You can identify that these thoughts are not going to be helpful to me right now, because what is helpful to me right now is spiritual rest. So any, thoughts you might have around there's no way I could do that, because I just want to invite you to challenge those thoughts gently. Talk to your husband about how you could make this work. Hire a babysitter for this time a month. And so I'm actually going to figure out a way. I have a regular block on Tuesdays that I had reserved for another activity. And I'm just going to put in my calendar that that first Tuesday of the month is always going to be for this kind of activity. Okay. Another strategy that might be helpful to mamas here is to extend your time at mass. Okay, so I know it might be difficult to get to mass on time with a whole bunch of children. Believe me, I understand. But could you extend your time after? Could you take the kids, have somebody take the kids outside? Maybe you've got an older child who can watch them. Maybe you do coffee after mass or whatever. Could you simply take time afterwards and just sit and be present? And again, that is your extended time of spiritual rest. Potentially look at just remaining later on your own in quiet, completely time for yourself, and just be, I love habit stacking. When you have one activity that you're already committed to, like Sunday mass, what is something that you could simply tack on the tail end of it, because you're already out and about, because you're already doing things. And so can you extend your time at mass in order to get that spiritual rest? Okay, that's tip number 2. Of course, getting up before your kids for your prayer time. You might be hearing this and you might think, ay, there's no way, I'm so exhausted. But this is a habit that can take just like a little bit of practice. Getting to bed early is part of this. There is something that can be just acquired grace and virtue. I think a baby wants to see us. Do you want to join us? Do you want to join us? Half the battle of going to bed, or half the battle of getting up and praying, is the ability to hold on, everybody. Hold on. Hold on. All right. We're going to wrap this live up, but basically get up before your kids and pray. Can you go to bed early? Part of that is going to bed early, and then having it's not even just willpower, but it's asking for the grace to, Lord, help me get up. One of the thoughts that really helps me in this season of postpartum and getting up early is asking, is literally the thought, getting up early means more time with you, Lord. So that's a thought that really helps me. Getting up early means more time with you, Lord. And then finally, can you create spiritual pockets in your home? Spiritual pockets. So if you're hearing this and you're like, there's no way I can get to a half day recollection a month, there is no way I can extend my time at mass It's a challenge just to get to mass. There's no way I can get up before my kids and pray. Can you create little pockets where you might have a beautiful statue of the Holy Family or the Virgin Mary, for example, where you might have a candle, where you might have a couple books that when you find a quiet moment, so maybe it's just a quiet moment, your kids are happily playing with each other. Maybe it's a quiet moment where um something gets moved around and all of a sudden you find all this free time. You're able to just pick up something that will give you spiritual rest. I'm getting emotional just talking about it because just that thought of having a quiet pause is so it just fills me with so much life. And there's so much possibility when we can focus on what is possible as opposed to what is not possible. Remember, what we focus on expands. And so if you are constantly looking at your life and saying, there's no way I could make time for prayer, there's no way I could make time for Jesus, it's just that's what's going to happen. Whereas if you can focus on how can I make this more possible? Might it be possible for me to get up 15 minutes earlier? Might it be possible to have like white noise machines everywhere so that I can tiptoe out of my room and have a little bit of time to pray? Whatever it is, focus on what is possible in getting more spiritual rest. And here is the reality. So I asked Father Damien, my spiritual director, like, what can I appeal to? Like, what evidence, quote unquote, is there about the effect of prayer and your increase in energy? And he was like, because my own evidence is just anecdotal. Like I have anecdotal evidence in my life about what happens when I pray more and the result of that on my family, on my work, on my day-to-day activities. And he was like, I've got he couldn't at the time he had anecdotal references. Those are all the ones that were coming to him at that time. But here's one that I want to share that really impacted me. A priest, and forgive me, I can't remember the names, but a priest went to go visit Mother Teresa and her sisters in Calcutta who were working with the sick, the very, very, very sick. And he was a big burly guy. This priest that he was talking about was ex-military. And he was lifting all of these patients who were very heavy and it was very tiring work and it was in like 100-degree heat and all the things. And he goes back to the sisters and was like, Mother Teresa, I don't understand how you do this all day, every day. Like this is so exhausting. And their response was just so simple. It's the Lord gives us strength. The Lord gives us strength. They would pray every morning for an hour before they went and did their work. And it can feel impossible when you are juggling the demands of so many people. But the truth is, our Lord Jesus Christ is the true source of energy. One final story I want to share with you. Last Sunday, my baby, Andrew, who made his sweet little appearance today, he sounds quiet now, so I think he's okay. But he just was having total gas pains, like the most ridiculous gas pains. And it was just a very challenging mass. I was like, the whole mass going like this. And I wear a chapel veil. It like was discarded, sweaty. And I was going up for communion in tears. And I was like, Lord, I got nothing. And the Lord said to me in that moment, I am the true source of energy. You are not alone. And I went to go kneel down after receiving communion, and it was an overcast day in Florida, which is very rare. And the way that the sun hit the window came at the perfect angle with where I was kneeling and praying. And I looked around. I was like, there is no one else receiving sun right now. And it probably was only for like honestly, it was probably for like 2 minutes. Like it was a very short little encounter, but it felt like I was sitting in the sun for 2 hours. It was such a moment of consolation. So I just want to share that with you, that if you are feeling like a tired mom, that you are never alone and that there is grace available to you. There is so much grace available to you. All right. I'm going to go tend to my bells. Everybody, have a great day. We'll see you next time.